Good evening.
Oh my gosh, I think we're live.
You just said you weren't going to do that.
Sorry, I promised I wasn't going to do a mum move and do the hello.
It's in the genes.
Hopefully this evening, if you're joining us on this live stream, hopefully you're not a member of New River Church. Normally we're here at this building broadcasting our church services, but for this very special Good Friday film screening, from what we can tell, this broadcast should be going out to a lot more people than we normally have on a broadcast. So if you are with us, you're here for the Messiah screening tonight. And I just want to take a quick moment to explain a few little things about the film before the film starts. And you'll be glad to know that this speaking part here will be the last that you see of us. Because the first thing you need to know about this film is that it is a two-parter. And when this film ends tonight, we will not be here to say goodnight or anything like that. We're going to leave you with the parting moments of the film. And it's set up in a way where you need to join us again on Sunday to be with us for that film. But what if someone is watching this afterwards? Can people still join in after this live stream?
Yeah, so even though it's in two parts, we will keep this live stream up for the weekend until the second part is released. And then after that, both parts will be joined, and that will be posted all together on our YouTube and on our Facebook pages. And so if you don't catch all of tonight, then don't worry, you can definitely view it again. But we're glad to have you live with us.
Yes, and hopefully some people are watching on Facebook, some people are watching on YouTube. We know that YouTube tends to have a little bit better quality when it comes to streaming, so we will waffle on for another minute at least. So if you want to switch over, now is your moment to do that. But another thing to let you know about, and this might be a slightly obvious one if you're familiar at all with the Easter story, but we've tried with this film to not pull any punches when it comes to the intensity of what Jesus went through on this day, Good Friday, equivalent, 2,000 years ago. So if you're watching with a younger audience, there's nothing, I've seen the video games people play. I know the video games I played when I was a kid. There's nothing worse than anything going on there, but wouldn't want to take anyone by surprise that, it's a real, this story is real and it's dramatic, and we've tried our best to keep it as dramatic and as intense as possible.
Yeah, so if you are watching and you have younger kids, we would just encourage you to be prepared to talk to your kids about this story. And we definitely want you to be the one that makes the discretion of that, because we don't want to limit what you think that your child can handle and what you think that, everyone in your family can handle. So we definitely want this to be a family experience because it is the story that we believe in and it's the story we base our faith off of. So we think it's extremely important.
The two last things to mention are, first of all, that this film has been created by an incredible team of volunteers from New River Church. Everyone who's been involved is, just friends and family who have had a bit more time than usual because of this lockdown. So the lockdown's turned out quite good for this in a sense. And so we just want to really thank everyone. So many people have poured in so much time, energy, effort, and everything into making this. And so everyone who you see in this film today is, they're just friends of ours who come to this church. It's a group of friends who have just been working together for it. But the final thing that we want to leave you with before we start this film is that for us, the real magic of something like this is that this isn't a made-up story that we're just showing to people because we want to tell a story. This is something that we believe to be true. The story of Jesus and his death and his resurrection, we believe this to be true. And in making this film, what we're trying to do is we're trying to colour in the story that we've read for a long time in black and white on the pages of our Bibles. We read the stories, and we feel like mediums like video are a brilliant way to just colour it in and try and give a bit more vision to it. So what we really want to encourage people to do as they join in with this film is reflect, is to let the film impact you, hopefully. And if you have a moment where you want to say something to God in it, go for it. If you have a moment where you want to close your eyes, go for it. Even if you want to pause it, go for it. For us, the real gold is what you can kind of feel on the inside. And I know that sounds really weird, but if that confuses you, please send a message to our channel and we'd definitely reply we can try and explain a bit more of what we're saying. But we really believe that there's something special about this, not because it's us who's made a film, but because of the story we're trying our best to tell, which is a story that's changed all of our lives. So if you are someone who's a Christian already and you know what communion is as well, for us here at the church, we're going to be taking communion right after the film and just kind of partaking in that sort of moment. So if you have anything in your house, some bread, water, food, drink, anything like that, and you'd like to join in with that, we just want to encourage you because hopefully by the end of the film, we're in a position where we're really wanting to just say something to God and thank him again for what he's done. So without further ado, I should probably stop talking.
Yeah.
And I just want to look at how many people. Wow, I can't believe how many people are watching this film. Thank you so much for joining in. We got 102 people on the stream so far. So all around the world.
We're so glad you're here.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy this and we hope you really connect with God through it as well. And we won't see you at the end, but we will see you for part 2.
Sunday morning, 11 a.m.
11 a.m. sharp.
That stream will be available tomorrow morning. So we'll make sure that you get that stream.
Yeah, the pre-save for that stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send that out.
So
Brilliant. Enjoy it. And we'll see you in a few days.
He's covered in dirt. The blood of his mother has mixed with the earth, and she's just a child who's throbbing in pain from the terror of birth by the light of a cave. Now they've laid that small baby, the creatures come eat like a meal for the swine who have no clue that he is still holding together the world that they see. They don't know just how long he has to go lower still.
Who is the Son of Man? Some say a king, some say prophet, some healer. I was born afflicted, condemned to the darkness for the sins of my fathers, delivered by my mother onto the soft and choking earth, my spine already bent and hands outstretching. Hope was carried in the hands of faceless strangers, dropping faceless coins, which I exchanged for bread. To the dirt I was called, and every day the more it set around me, until I met another. One day, a stranger, but different from the rest. A crowd would follow, and they spoke of him as a man with power. I remember it so clearly, the crowds coming closer, the noise and energy on the dust. And I called out to him, "Master," I said, "will you help me?" And the voices went quiet. And gently, as if from heaven, a hand came resting down upon my head. Then a voice came with the radiance of vision. "My child," he said, "I see you." And I cried. "Help me," I pleaded. "Forgive me of my sins, of myself and my fathers." "Think not of your sins," he replied, "but look to God, and let him in you be glorified. And I heard the dirt being broken from the ground around me. And in his hands, he mixed it with the moisture from his mouth. Then he spread the blessed mud upon my eyes, and as the soil bound, it dried and cracked. And the hand of God I felt at work upon me. Heat, then pain, then moisture, then movement, then vision. My eyes opened, and through them the entire world was poured. The beauty of it, it was overwhelming. A man I knew to be priest, Nicodemus, approached me, asked my name, though I had none. Is it true, he asked me, are you made well? By what power does this sinner claim to heal you? What do you say? I couldn't say. I knew nothing except one thing, that once I was blind, but now I see.
There is greater love to show as to the plow further down. Blood must flow.
We met that night in the Sanhedrin. The lower hall was lit by fire, its high walls hung with shadows. The Pharisees, chief priests and elders were gathered. "It is done," they said, and a scroll was passed into my hand. On it, written the name Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus, I knew him well. Friend of sinners, himself a homeless Nazarene, followed by his band of sailors, taxmen and thieves. He knew our laws, he claimed to serve our God, but he was not one of us. He was dangerous. "Can this be charged?" I asked them. "Do we have a case? This should be discussed, no less." From behind the flames, Caiaphas, the high priest, rose. "Tell me," he said, "what are we accomplishing here? Shall we sit by while our nation is destroyed? This man, this rabbi, he contradicts us, criticizes us, condemns us. His blasphemy is clear." It was true, I thought. His followers increase. Something should be done. But all the while, those blind man's eyes still burned in my mind. "Have you witnessed his claims?" I asked them. "I've seen for myself what many confess. They call him a prophet, some call him Messiah." "They are deceived fools," he replied. "May God forgive them." "That power he claims also," I told them. "Then you see what we're dealing with here. It's better for one man to die than a whole nation to perish. Are we all in agreement?" he asked us. The votes were cast with coins. "The cost of loyalty is met," he said. And with that, the door slid open and a shadow entered in. 30 pieces of silver were passed into his hand. "Take this, Judas," he said. "The price is paid."
Steps are personal. Oh, shame is ransom. Oh, do you see just how low he has come? Do
I have an inn on the quiet edge of Jerusalem. It is small but well kept, washed kindly by the city's warmth. Passover came, and in the evening a group of men arrived looking for a place to eat. And they were welcome here, and I set the room for them. Among them was a teacher, Jesus, his face reminiscent of one I had seen before on a distant hillside. A man who spoke in stories unashamed to love. Their simple meal began, flavored with stories too outrageous to repeat, of leper camps, of cracking decks on stormy seas, of impossible things. A little later, another knock came, and through the door, a man slipped in. His face and robe both dark, a 12th disciple. They asked him where he had been. On business, he confessed. It was strange. Then, when they all sat, Jesus stood, and from a cool clay jug poured water into a bowl. He pulled back his chair and knelt at the disciple next to him. Then he brought a towel, took hold of the disciples' feet and washed them. The master, kneeling, serving at his servants' feet. What leader, I thought, would act like this? Then, quite suddenly, I was taken back again, staring across the distant hillside. That teacher there, now kneeling here, it was truly him. He went back to his seat, stretched out his arms towards them. This will be our final meal, he said. I will not eat again until the kingdom of God is fulfilled. And as he spoke, he took the bread. This is my body given for you. And he broke it and passed it round. Take this and remember me. Then he took the wine and said, all of you drink of this. My blood poured out to forgive all sins. And they shared the cup. For a little while the room was silent, and under the softness of the lamps they sat. Until he said, though there is one among you who will betray me, and soon hand me over to be killed. Of everything I had heard that night, I found this the hardest to believe. Whom of them these brothers would trade the life of the one they loved? They asked him who, which one of them, but I feel they knew. Of the 12 who sat there, I saw 11 question him, and one put his hand over his face. It is time, Jesus said. Go now, do quickly what needs to be done. And the man in robes slowly stood and simply left. Come with me, he said to the others. There is little time.
Look now, he's kneeling, he's washing their feet, though they're all filthy fishermen, traitors and thieves. Now he's pouring his heart out, they're falling asleep, but he has to go lower still. Jesus led us out to the gardens of Gethsemane. It was early, still dark. Quickly we walked, not stopping, covered by the deep lines of young trees. I knew where he was taking us, a place Jesus had come many times to pray. Finally we reached a clearing, the sky above us filled with stars. All around was silent, nothing moved nor breathed. Just the rising smell of rich earth around us, and the moonlight bending on the damp, sensuous grass. Me and James and John were called. We'd watch over him as he prayed. He moved off a little way, his whisper carried in the gentle wind. Draw near to me. Then down on his knees he fell, and down his face the tears. Draw near, he prayed. Comfort me. We didn't understand, and the hours had passed away. Then, suddenly, I woke, laying in the dewy grass, the Mount of Olives above us now glowing with the early light, and Jesus standing there beside me. Were you asleep? He asked. Were all of you? My time is near, and yet you cannot give me one final hour. Please watch over me. The morning air was cool, yet sweat now soaked his fragile cloak. The Son of Man in fear like I'd never seen before. Yet, we still didn't understand. He began to pray again. Father, I know what is to come, but all is possible for you. Would you take this cup from me? And he waited for his Father's voice as the silent sky shone down. And then on the ground, I began to see the sweat which fell from his face, now dropping as blood. Yet still, not what I will, but yours be done, he said.
How I long to see the picture finished, painted as a perfect portrait, void of all the mysteries of my life. The cares of life bend every corner, taking me in wrong directions. Can I walk despite the pain and strife? But what is life without all the yearnings of the heart? And who am I to doubt all you have in store for me? I will take up my cross. I will follow. I will follow. Day by day, choice by choice, I will follow. I will follow. How I long to see the picture finished, painted as a perfect portrait, void of all the mysteries of my life. The cares of life bend every corner, taking me in wrong directions. Can I walk despite the pain and strife? But what is life without all the yearnings of the heart? And who this place.
Then the echo of a broken branch splintered through the air. A shadow followed it. Jesus stood and faced him. "Judas," he said, "do what you came to do." And Judas reached out his hand and kissed the face of God. The sign was given. Through the trees the soldiers came, but we couldn't fight. He wouldn't let us. And so we ran. And they took him away.
From the Tiberium, we watched them. A prisoner was pushed in on the swelling crowd. They filled the square and then dropped him at our steps. Pilate, my husband, prefect of Judea, he stood and met them. Then, like an offering, they lifted the man high towards the hand of Rome. I looked upon his face. It was one I'd seen before, but only in my restless sleep. A pale reflection of a haunting dream in which an innocent man was condemned by those he served and then killed in the worst of ways. I looked across the court, and there, by a fire pit, their elders warmed their hands. Silver coins passed between them. Something was conspired. They turned and all addressed the crowd, their words still nailed in my mind. "Bound before you is he, Jesus, the one they call the Christ. He stands accused, treason, in resurrection blasphemy. He rejects God's law but claims his power to heal, to defy the natural state, to forgive your sins. What's more than that, this threatens even to destroy your holy temple too." And with each charge, the crowd hurled stones and spat. I thought they'd kill him where he stood. Yet still, he said nothing. So they asked him straight, "Are you the Messiah, Son of the Blessed One?" And from his trembling lips, his own conviction fell. "I am," he said. "And soon enough you'll see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One." And the crowd broke free. "Death to him," they screamed. "Crucify the man, crucify him." I looked towards my husband, and with both Jerusalem and Rome in hand, I pulled him to one side. "What price," I said to him, "might come from condemning the innocent to death?" One final time he spoke to them. "I'll set him free to you, as is the custom your Passover dictates. And as you've said, each year one prisoner can go free. This man is he." But no, just a blooded cry rang out. "Release Barabbas instead." The murderer Barabbas instead. And Pilate looked at me. There was nothing more to do. "Very well," he said, and he washed his hands of it. "And for your king," he asked them, "let him be crucified. Crucify him."
Hanging like me on a criminal's tree, lower still, lower still. Bury his corpse in the earth like a seed, like a seed, like a seed, lower still.
Blood was running down his back, dripping from his waist, then forming a pool around the resting whip. The air was thick with iron and with pain. He was ready for the cross. My men prepared the wood, and while we waited to pass the time, we took his clothes, most in tatters now, but we gambled for the rest. I replaced him with a purple robe and tied it tightly around his neck. Another found a branch of thorns, formed it round into a perverse and twisted crown, pushed it hard onto his head. A fitting gesture for a self-claimed king, we said. How could we have known?
Your hands nailed through, your body bruised, your name blasphemed, your eyes on me, your tears of grief falling to the ground. The Jewish king, hail my kingly, your hands nailed through, your body bruised, your name blasphemed, your eyes on me, your tears of grief falling to the ground. The Jewish king, hail my kingly, the sky darkened, the hateful voice, your perseverance, eyes lifted up, your own divided, your cross brought low, the tomb found empty, life forevermore. Your own divided, your cross brought low, the tomb found empty, life forevermore.
The planks are brought out, still stained and splintered from the day before. We made him pick one up. He bent beneath its weight. He tried to walk, but with each step the dirt was pushing through his feet, as if sinking down into the earth itself. We drove him forwards until we reached Golgotha's hill. His hollow eyes watched with every step. We laid him down, tightly held his legs and arms, took out the iron hammer and joined him to the wood. We raised him up, his body fixed, now pinned against the beam, with arms outstretched. King of Jews, someone placed an ink above his head. His wounds were pouring blood, which was taken and scattered on the mournful wind. And there he hung.
See from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love, from being gone down, did such love.
and the hours slowly passed. Finally, eventually, his pain began to ease. Weakness now replaced it. His body drained and broken, he'd given all, and all now was given. And as the fading sun cast brightly on his face, he looked out through his blood-filled eyes. His friends, his mother looking back. The eyes of love and those of sadness met. Their king, their friend, their precious son, held up with nails, waiting for the end. A distant thunder rolled. We looked up, and before our eyes the sky grew black. Then with his final breath he cried, "It is finished." And his body sunk upon the nails. His spirit left him. And with that, the sky above, the ground beneath our feet, all the world, it seemed, erupted around us, as if to grieve. And in the chaos, standing there, after this, after all I'd done and said, I looked upon his lifeless body there and had to ask, who was this man? Surely he was the Son of God.
How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son to make a wretch His treasure. How great the pain of searing loss! The Father turns His face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory.
Behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed, I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. He was my sin that held him there, until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, His death and resurrection.